this was the image that I got from government's model. When you look at government's model, while you're fighting in a war, suddenly media would go to you, put a mic in front of you, and tell you to speak. And the soldier would say, I don't like the education system of this country. That's a problem, and that's something satirical I see in their model. And I'd like to point out, first of all, what the debate is about. It's actually about whether they should speak out against the government or not in public. And we say that we say this because it is not about the citizens' rights. Because they talk about these soldiers as if these people are just ordinary citizens, and they talk about these people as if they have never signed a contract, and they talk about these people as if they just fulfill these roles and have never said anything regarding the soldiers. So basically, what is the overarching question in this debate? Should the military speak out against the government or not? And we say they should not. So the standards of this debate, whether or not which side would take this debate, is first of all, who would uphold the rights of the military men, and number two, showcase the proper duties of military men, which we take in our side. So I have two issues for you today. First of all, the rights of the military men, which is the principle, and the second one is the effects of this limit, because we ask government to justify this limit at the end of the day. So going on to my first issue, I'd like to talk about how we actually uphold the rights of these military men at the end of the day. Because all they argue, having 7 minutes of argumentation, 7 minutes of speech, there was only 2 minutes of argumentation, and the only things that they argued was number one, freedom of speech, which we say have to say against it, is first of all, they can always speak to them privately, which we have already badgered to them a lot, and which we have already pointed out, please sit down. So second of all, they can always quit the military at the end of the day. If they want to show dissent, if they want to show a message to the people that they're actually not not accepting of what the government has to do for them, then they can quit the military, which is also an effective message of saying that, hey, I don't feel like I should be of service to this government anymore, as though I should as a citizen. And number three, we also talk about the voluntary nature of joining the military, because they try to frame it as then, well, these people must join the military at all costs. But we say here that that is not the case, and it is always voluntary for these people to defend their case.
In most cases, in most governments in the world, it is mandatory military service. How would soldiers be able to quit their military in order to propagate a message?
I'm going to talk about mandatory military service later, and I'll tell you when I'm going to talk about that. So going back to freedom of speech, let's talk about how they tell us and burden us to protect democracy by defending the rights of others. We say that we do not exactly limit the rights of these people. What exactly is limiting their rights is the very decision of these people to join the military, and that's one thing that a government bench does not get, because they choose to take us off in order for the necessity of these people to join the military at the end of the day. And going to that, they want us also to prove the difference between ex-veterans and soldiers. What exactly is the difference? Well, ex-veterans do not no longer represent the military, while these soldiers currently represent the military. These people fight for the military and are still in the military institution, while these ex-veterans are not. Therefore, we say that that point was that burden and that point is flawed, and therefore we say our side takes this issue when we talk about the nature of the military, because we talk about a body that holds direct and discursive power, and when we talk about soldiers, we talk about the soldiers' duties of number one, to serve the country, number two, to defend the country, and lastly, show indifference towards the issues. But they always have opinions, and they can always show dissent towards the government by writing a private complaint, and not exactly going to media and expressing this at the end all. And number two, we talk about how these people waiver their rights at the end of the day, because the decision to join the military entails a contract, and which they have never realized. Because when we talk about contract, this is something where the military men, these soldiers or these military men, have to read. This something these people have to browse through and actually accept at the end of the day. So let's look at the phrasing of the motion this House would allow, meaning at the end of the day, it is actually currently banned, and government is trying to make us bite the frame, saying that, well, this is actually not the case. So going on, so how we resolve this issue, we actually show you that we show a balance, and we show actually how these people actually waiver their rights at the end of the day, because they choose to serve the country at the expense of their freedom of speech, and therefore we say we take this issue. Please sit down. So So going on to my next issue, I'll be talking about the effect, because they talked about how it exploits the actual meaning, and it exploits because it deprives people of the value of democracy, and because they talk about how they can't exactly file formal cases. Well, under our model, you can actually do that, because these aren't because what exactly happens is that these aren't exactly private matters, and what people are allowed to do now is that they are allowed to write to the government. They are allowed to privately tell the government that, well, I have a problem with what exactly is happening, and well, I'm not actually going to do this publicly, and that's why we allow this at the end of the day. Number two, they also talk about how they aren't allowed to show dissent, and they talk about classified information. Well, first of all, we did not exactly talk about classified information. We actually agree that classified information is something that these military people have agreed to not to spread, and they talk about how why they also talk about this, and we talk about why public opinion is not an avenue, because military has direct power. Meaning they can have discursive power because they create a society of fear, and at the end of the day, they also talk about decreasing hoodedness. But where will the government be more understanding when they formally badger on this, or when they actually write a private letter, a formal letter of complaint, where they actually say, hey, I'm not actually accepting of this, and I'd like you to fix that. So that's why we talk about division and backlash, because under your model, there grows a certain mass of ideas that will continually grow in the military when these people don't get to agree to each other, when there is a difference of values between these people, and when these shoulders are rallied, they form cells of groups which will eventually go in, against each other, and these groups that would dissent. And because we talk about loss of trust and a potential political conflict, which would result to unstable and tension going to society. Secondly, we also talk about how we lose these foreign investors because, number one, these foreign investors maximize their profit, and the thing that drives them to stay in this the countries, number one, the market, the opportunities, and the stability, which we at the end of the day gain in our issue. And by showing the effect of this, we show that under our model we actually see better effect on them. We actually solve this case at the end.